The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "One of the people that will not enter paradise is at Dayooth." This is a heavy and scary statement, because if you're a Muslim who truly believes in Allah and the last day, then you should be making sure you're the furthest away from fitting the description of a Dayooth, right? Unfortunately, the reality is that we live in an era where Dayooths are normalized and even celebrated. In this video, I will explain to you who is a Dayooth and how they are on the rise among Muslim men in Malaysia. First of all, since I'm a nobody, let's get the definition of a Dayooth from a scholar. This is what Sheikh Salih Al-Fawzan has to say.
الديوث هو الذي يقر السوء في أهله، يقر السوء في أهله، يرى أحدا يدخل عليهم ولا يمنعه ولا يبالي، فهو يقر السوء في أهله. هذا هو الديوث. ولأنه سبق أن الرجل راع مسؤول عن أهله، مسؤول عن رعيته. قوا أنفسكم وأهليكم نارا، فلا يجوز له أن يترك أهله على السوء وعلى مصاحبة الرجال فهذا أمر خطير جدا. وكذلك وسائل الدياثة، كان يقر أهله على السفور، على الخروج والاختلاط بالرجال، يقرهم على ذلك. هذا لا يسمى ديوثا، لكنه هذا من أسباب الدياثة، لأن عدم الحجاب ولأن الاختلاط ولأن السفر بدون محرم هذه أسباب للوقوع في الفاحشة، فهي أسباب للدياثة. نعم.
To sum it up, what leads a man to be a Dayooth is one who approves evil in his family, allows his women folk to engage in immodest behavior, allows them to free mix with other men, and so on. Now I'm going to reveal something shocking to anyone who has Iman. Based on my personal experience, being born and raised in Malaysia, a Muslim majority country, I've never met a man who does anything other than what Sheikh Salih Al-Fawzan just mentioned. Now I know I shouldn't generalize, but isn't it alarming if for almost 3 decades, not a single Muslim man that I know of fails to meet the description of Dayooth from at least one aspect? Now I'm not qualified enough to say whether they are Dayooths or not, but what I can say is that they are definitely on the path to being one. And as the hadith of the Prophet mentioned, this is a path leading straight to hell. Now before I continue, I think a little bit of context is necessary. From my limited and personal observation of a couple decades, I believe that Muslims in Malaysia can be divided into 4 groups. The first group are those that only self-identify as Muslims but have become secular due to the colonization of the mind by Western ideologies. The second group are those who have become more liberal but they still have some ounce of Iman in their hearts. The third group are those who practice the religion fully but they've inherited the innovations passed down by their forefathers and teachers who they trust blindly and never dare to question them. The final group are the strangers who practice Islam the way it should be in accordance to the Sunnah. They don't blindly follow anything that's regurgitated to them, and they always follow where the truth leads them. I know these people exist, but unfortunately, I've yet to meet one in person. Glad tidings to the strangers. The reason why this context is necessary is that you really need to understand the Islamic landscape in Malaysia. Here, Muslims mainly follow Madhab Shafi'i. That's all fine and good. The issue is when laymen like you and me encounter something we're unsure of, but because of our whims and desires, we will justify that doubtful matter by wrongly attributing it as something the madhab permits without any knowledge or evidence to back it up. The reason I'm saying this is because I don't want the first 3 groups I mentioned earlier to squirm their way out of what I'm about to say, by saying it's permissible in madhab Shafi'i like they always do. Free mixing is haram in 99.99% of cases. Tabarruj is definitely haram by consensus. The role of a man is not the same as the woman's. A man has to be the leader of his family, the provider and protector, while the woman takes care of his household and children and nurtures them. She can work as long as her husband permits her, her work doesn't involve in anything haram, and she has already fulfilled all her other obligations. Now that I've laid out all the relevant information, let's move on to the main event, the problem. In Malaysia, free mixing is a norm. Whether it's in schools or in the workplace, men and women mingle together all the time. How can you even be bewildered by the fact that so many pregnancies out of wedlock are happening amongst teenagers when you allow such a thing to happen? How can you be shocked when your wife is cheating on you or vice versa? In Malaysia, on Eid, it's part of the Malay culture to mingle with your cousins and in-laws like it's not even haram. It's one of the only celebrations in Islam and you're out there celebrating it the way shaitan wants you to. Back to sinning right after Ramadan, eh? In Malaysia, it's a norm for women to cover their hair but wear tight clothing and adorn themselves with makeup. The concept of hijab must have really flew over your heads when you were taught it. In Malaysia, it's a norm for non-mahram men to follow your wife, daughter, mother or sister on social media and for them to do the same. In Malaysia, it's normal for women folk to post their pictures online. It's a free will, am I right? In Malaysia, it's a norm for your wife to be heavily covered in makeup on your wedding day, just so that your male buddies can surround her for a group photo. In Malaysia, it's normal for your wife to make the decisions in the household and for a family to depend on her financially, and in doing so, she has to work in a haram environment. But who cares, right? Hooray for 50-50. When I contemplate, I can see why the Dayooth man will be forbidden paradise. It's because a broken family, a failed society, and a corrupt country arise from their sin of being weak men. If man did what Allah created them to do, we wouldn't be in the state that we're in as an ummah. We are the shepherds of our flock. We are responsible for our family. We're supposed to protect them from entering the fire, but instead, because of our weakness, we're dragging them along with us to hell. That is, if we don't change. Instead of letting movies and music that's been infected with Western ideologies brainwash your mind and corrupt your worldview, why not take the Quran to help you judge between right and wrong? Instead of taking celebrities and athletes as role models and imitating the disbelievers because you have an infinity complex, why not take the Prophet, peace be upon him, the greatest human to ever walk this earth, as an example on how to be a man? Why not take his life story as a blueprint on how to live your life? The answers have all been laid out to you just there for the taking. It's all a matter of choice. So why not for once, you be a man and make the right choice?